This does go back to Robert Mueller and to Jim Comey and the things that we've seen. Look, in 2018, as you well have covered, Maria, Republicans in charge of the House of Representatives raised questions about whether the FBI was illegally surveilling the Trump campaign, wrote a memo called the Nunes Memo that was met with scorn and derision from the FBI, from the media. But when it ultimately was declassified, it was found out that there were not any threats to national security in that. The reason that the FBI didn't want that to go public was because it was embarrassing.
Well, that was the former director of national intelligence, John Ratcliffe, on this program last week on the illegal surveillance of the Trump campaign and the Trump presidency during the Russia collusion lie and the abuse to the FISA court. It is one of a number of instances recently. Critics have pointed to a two-tiered system of justice at the DOJ and the FBI, including FBI whistleblowers who have spoken out about political bias, according to Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan. During the 2016 presidential campaign, former Trump campaign advisor Carter Page was spied on by the FBI for an entire year, with no charges ever brought against him. The DOJ later admitted that 2 of the FISA warrants used against Page were not valid, and that the Justice Department lacked the actual probable cause to surveil Page in the first place. Now, Page is suing the DOJ and the FBI for damages over their surveillance. In a new filing, Page says new evidence has come to light during the criminal case of Igor Danchenko. He is the subsource of the Steele dossier, accused of lying about the credibility of his sources, when his primary source was actually a Democrat operative tied to Hillary Clinton. We now know that the FBI was paying Danchenko from March of 2017 to October of 2020. He was on their payroll. Joining me right now this morning with this breaking news is the former Trump campaign advisor himself, Carter Page. Carter, thanks very much for being here. You have had an incredible several years. Give us your sense of this new motion that you have filed, indicating this new information. You have filed a motion to alter or amend the judgment, which was filed this weekend in the FISA abuse case in D.C.
Maria, listen, it is the same fight that all of the members of the Republican members of Congress, the Trump administration, and millions of Americans across the country have been asking for and fighting over the last 5+ years. All we want is the truth. Unfortunately, I was litigating my FISA abuse case, which actually stemmed from the Inspector General Horowitz's report out of 2019. And we were litigating it, and unfortunately, it was dismissed. But it was based on all of the lies that the government has been pleading. And unfortunately for them, literally the same day that my lawsuit was dismissed on September 1st, they looked to seal and even, keep covered up the same lies that they've been covered up with regards to Danchenko. Then a couple weeks later, they go ahead and declassify that after the damage had already been done. And after, unfortunately, not only the FISA court was similar to the fact that that was defrauded, unfortunately, the U.S. District Court in Washington was also defrauded with this false information. They do not have the truth, and we've been working with this completely unjust system based on complete lies for literally 5+ years already.
We're looking at the timeline, your suit, Page versus Comey, U.S. versus Danchenko, and we see the unsealing of that. And that is when we learned that Igor Danchenko was actually on the payroll of the FBI. So why was the FBI paying Danchenko from March of 2017 all the way until October 2020? And why do you believe that information could be a game changer to overturn the dismissal of your lawsuit?
Maria, because it represents complete fraud, and it also represents, there's been a lot of prosecution in terms of lying to Congress, lying to the federal government. Unfortunately, this is exactly what DOJ and other operatives in Washington have been doing for years in terms of part of this cover-up. So this is finally, unfortunately for both the judge in my case and, the credibility of our justice system and the district court in Washington, it's just proven to be a complete sham. So this seems like it should be, again, there's a lot of questions in terms of our justice system right now, But this seems to be a very solid basis for reopening this case and actually getting to the truth, exactly as you and so many leaders in Congress have been looking to do and have been working so hard to do over the course of the last 5+ years.
Well, we've been following this very closely and knew that this was a lie many years ago in terms of Trump colluding with Russia. But I want to ask you about what you've endured, Carter, because your life was turned upside down. The FBI wanted to spy on the Trump campaign. They used you as part of that by surveilling you. What did that mean? That mean your emails, your text messages, your phone calls. You were getting death threats. You were moving to different hotels so that you wouldn't get harassed and get death threats. Tell me about how your life was upended as a result of the FBI's pursuit of surveilling the Trump campaign.
Well, it's amazing, Maria. It's actually a continuation of what we see right to this very day. During the summer of 2017, after Judge Dearie approved my final FISA warrant in June of 2017, and as was subsequently declassified from the Horowitz report, there was a number of footnotes, right? The fact that, they were illegally breaking into my residences and taking unauthorized photos of my personal belongings. For example, July 13th, they talk about in footnote 379, which then, of course, Senator Grassley had to get declassified. I'm in Doubletree, Princeton. July 29th, I'm in the Doubletree Norwalk Hotel. Trying to protect my life when I'm getting death threats across the country, hiding out in various places. Meanwhile, the FBI is breaking and entering into my temporary residences, since I'm an international fugitive at this point. And meanwhile, at the very same time, they're also paying this guy who was involved in the Russia hoax and helped start the Russia hoax.
And we should point out, Carter, that you were, quote unquote, an asset of the CIA before any of this took place. In other words, you were actually assisting the CIA in taking down bad guys. And when a lawyer at the FBI was asked, well, was Carter Page working with any other agency? He actually doctored a document and said no when he knew otherwise. He is Kevin Kleinsmith. He got a slap on the wrist. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. And unfortunately, he was also one of my defendants in this pending case in Washington. And, he was let off in a civil suit as well. Again, based on a foundation of complete lies, which the government had pled, and so many other of the, co-defendants, private individual actors within the government had pled as well. And, now it's been completely overturned and shown, that it's, again, complete lies and just a total cover-up, to deceive a court and the American public.
Well, they did cover up and deceive the FISA court to spy on you. We know that. Very quickly, encapsulate all of this because, take it forward. We just had a raid on a former president's home. We've got whistleblowers calling out the FBI saying that there is political bias. What can you say based on your own experience about the FBI today? Final word.
Well, listen, I think, similar to, President Trump and his literally his home, just like I was dealing with in the summer, 5 summers earlier, then Judge Dearie is the one who was the one that signed off on it, the quote unquote special master now. And unfortunately, all of his, all of the information in terms of what he actually ordered is all classified still. So I'm just hoping for some truth finally and some steps forward in terms of restoring our justice system. We are a long way from that right now, Maria, unfortunately.
Look at all of those redactions. Unbelievable. It's 18 out of 20 pages are redacted. Carter Page, thanks for your leadership and courage coming out and talking to us about this morning. Former Trump campaign advisor Carter Page will be watching this.